They say the forest doesn't want to hurt you until it does, and when it decides to keep you, no one will ever find where you went. Before we start, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a like and a comment, because what you're about to hear, isn't just another campfire story. Stay until the end. The truth behind it will shake you more than you think. I always thought people exaggerated stories about national parks. Hikers going missing, strange lights in the woods, sounds that seem to follow you when you walk alone. I used to laugh at those missing 411 cases. That was before last October, when I almost became one of them. It started as a weekend trip to the Great Smoky Mountains, a place I'd visited before. I was comfortable out there. I had my GPS, a reliable tent, and years of experience hiking alone. But this time something felt wrong. Even the air smelled different, damp, metallic, like old blood and wet bark. By the time I set up camp, the sun was already sinking. A dense fog crept down between the trees, swallowing everything in its path. It muffled sound too, like I was under a heavy blanket. I should have packed up and gone back to my car, but I told myself it was fine that I'd just stay one night. As I gathered wood for a small fire, I noticed something strange. Every direction I turned, I saw the same dead birch tree split in half, like lightning had torn it open. I moved further, thinking I was circling back by mistake, but it was still there, looming behind the fog like a pale skeleton. I pulled out my GPS. No signal. That didn't make sense. I'd used the same device on harder trails before. Now, all it showed was a blinking red ERROR. That's when I heard it. A low whistle. Not like wind, this was too steady. Too intentional. Eat a twed. On say far off to my left. Then again, closer. I froze, listening. Probably another hiker, I told myself. But I hadn't seen a single person all day. I yelled out, "Hey, you good out there?" No answer. Just the sound of leaves crunching. Slowly, behind me, when primera turned. The fog seemed thicker than before. I could barely make out shapes. Maybe branches, maybe something else. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Hello, silence. Then, a faint click, like a camera shutter. The fire popped behind me, startling me. I spun around, flashlight raised. Nothing. The light caught a few falling leaves, but no eyes, no movement. I tried to shake it off and sat by the fire, convincing myself it was just nerves. The forest is full of noises. It plays tricks on you when you're alone. That's what I kept repeating in my head. But then, at around midnight, I woke up to the sound of whispering. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It was a voice. Low, hushed, human. I could make out words. Not English. Not any language I knew. It circled my tent, moving slowly, dragging on the syllables, like someone tasting the sound. I held my breath. The zipper of my tent tugged. Once, twice. Then it stopped. I grabbed my knife and unzipped the tent in one motion. My light cut through the mist outside. Nothing. The forest was dead quiet again. My breath came out in visible clouds. That's when I saw the footprints. Bare, human, leading away from my tent, but only for a few steps. After that, nothing. They just stopped mid-stride, as if the person vanished into thin air. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just sat there, gripping my knife, waiting for dawn. When morning finally came, I packed up fast and started down what I thought was the trail back. But the deeper I went, the less sense things made. The birch tree, that same split trunk, appeared again. Then again. It was like I was walking in circles, even though my compass said I was moving straight. The woods got denser, the light dimmer. It felt like the forest was folding in on itself. I stopped to rest and turned off my GPS for a second, hoping it might reset. When I powered it back on, the screen didn't show coordinates. It showed words. "Turn around." I froze. My fingers went numb. I dropped it, watching the device flicker before dying completely. I wanted to believe it was some kind of glitch, but then I heard that whistle again, closer this time. maybe 20 feet away. And then, laughter. It was quiet, breathy, like someone trying not to be heard. I turned slowly, sweeping my flashlight across the trees. That's when I saw a figure. Not an animal, a person. They were standing between the trees, tall, thin, wearing something dark that blended with the bark, their head tilted to one side as the beam hit them. For a second, they didn't move. Then, they stepped backward into the fog and disappeared. My mind went blank. I ran. I don't even know for how long. Minutes, maybe hours. The fog twisted everything. Every direction looked the same. I screamed for help, but all I heard back was the echo of my own voice. Finally, I found a clearing. I recognized nothing, not a single landmark. The silence pressed down on me like weight. Then, from somewhere deep behind me, I heard that same click, like a chimera, followed by the faintest whisper smile. I turned, but the fog swallowed everything. I don't remember falling, but when I woke up, it was dawn again. My GPS was unblinking normally. I was lying just a few hundred feet from my car, but when I checked the photos on my phone later, the last one wasn't mine. It was a picture of me, asleep in my tent. When I showed that photo to a park ranger later that day, his face went pale. He said no one else had checked into the area for over a week. Then he asked me very quietly if I'd touched anything unusual. I didn't know what he meant, so I told him about the dead birch tree and the whispering. That's when he told me to leave. Not be careful, not stick to the path, just leave. He refused to say more, but as I was heading back to my car, I heard him on his radio, whispering to another ranger. Another one saw the fog. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I got in my car and drove, heart pounding the whole way home. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep right. Every creak of my house, every wind outside my window, it all sounded like that forest again. And sometimes, when I looked through my phone gallery, that picture would still move to the top, even after deleting it. But mine wasanti, the only story from that park. A few years before my trip, a guy named Evan went missing in the same national park. His friends told investigators they'd been hiking along one of the older trails, one that's supposedly retired, meaning it's no longer maintained. The map they found in his backpack had no such trail marked on it. His best friend, Kyle, later wrote about it online before deleting the post. I managed to find a cached version once, and it went something like this. We started the day early. The fog was thick, but we figured it would burn off once the sun rose. There were 4 of us. Me, Evan, Sarah, and Jenna. We'd planned to do a short hike before driving home, but when we got to the trailhead, there was a sign we'd never seen before. The wood was old, splintered, but the letters carved into it looked fresh. It said, "Quiet Trail. Do not enter alone." Evan joked it was probably some abandoned path and wanted to check it out. We told him no, but he was stubborn, said he'd just walk a few hundred feet to get a cool photo. The post continued, saying they watched him vanish down the narrow path between the trees. It waved on, say, then disappeared into the mist. Minutes passed. They called his name, no answer. An hour later they went after him. What they found was strange. The path ended after maybe 50 feet, swallowed by undergrowth. There was no sign of Evan, no footprints past that point. But on the tree nearest the dead end, there were markings. Deep, desperate scratches, and what looked like the faint imprint of a hand pressed into the bark. The police searched for days. Dogs, drones, everything. They never found Evan. But here's the part. The post ended with the part that haunted me most. A week later, Jenna got a text from Evan's number. It was just one photo of the 4 of us standing at the trailhead, taken from behind. I tried to convince myself that story was fake, like one of those internet creep, but something about it felt too real, too detailed. And then, one night, while I was scrolling through my messages before bed, I froze. An unknown number had texted me. No message, just a photo. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. It was the same picture, The birch tree. My tent, only this time, I wasn't in it. The flap of the tent was open, and inside was something standing there. A shape, long-limbed and gray, with a head that bent forward too far. I stared at it for minutes before deleting it and turning my phone off completely. The next morning, I decided to dig deeper. I looked up disappearances in the Smokies and found hundreds. The details were always the same. Hikers vanish in fog, gear found intact, no signs of struggle. In some reports, rescuers mentioned echoing whistles or hearing voices calling their names deep in the woods. One particular case caught my attention, a search and rescue ranger from 1998. His report was archived, but part of it was leaked online. Here's what it said. We found the missing hiker S-pack and shoes near the base of an old birch tree. The trunk appeared split by lightning, but the inside was hollow, deep enough to fit a man. Inside were long claw marks, like someone had been trying to dig out. That same night, I dreamed I was in the forest again. Only this time, the fog was alive. It pulsed, like it was breathing. I could hear that whistle echoing through it. But when I turned, I saw a shape moving inside the mist. It wasn't walking, it was gliding. When it got close enough, I saw its face. Or rather, the lack of one. Just stretched skin, pale as the birch bark, and a faint impression of a mouth whispering my name. I woke up drenched in sweat, convinced I'd screamed in my sleep. But the sound that woke me wasn't mine. It was a whistle, faint and hollow, coming from somewhere outside my window. I didn't move for what felt like hours. Eventually, I looked outside. The fog had rolled in again, thick and heavy, even though I lived miles away from any forest. And there, at the edge of my yard, between two trees that hadn't been there the day before, stood that same split birch trunk. I shut the curtains and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, it was gone. The fog, the tree, everything. But when I went to make coffee, I noticed something on the kitchen table. My phone. Unlocked. Camera open. And on the screen, a live image. Me. Standing at the window. Only, I wasn't moving. I was smiling. I didn't remember taking that photo or even touching my phone, but there it was, open to the camera, showing me standing still at the window, smiling. That morning, I panicked. I grabbed my keys, left the house, and drove straight to my brother's place. For 2 nights, everything was fine. Then, on the third, I woke up around 3 a.m., 2 footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Wet, I whispered. Cut. No answer. When I opened the door, the moonlight from the living room window showed something tall at the end of the hall. Too tall. Its head tilted, brushing the ceiling. Its face was smooth. No eyes, just a stretched mouth opening wider as it stepped closer. I slammed the door and shouted for my brother. When we looked again, it was gone. But near the front door lay a pile of wet forest leaves. That was the last night I stayed there. When I returned home, my tent was in the backyard. My old tent covered in dirt. Inside, my broken GPS blinked to life. Welcome back. I called the ranger station, desperate for answers. The man who'd warned me before just whispered, "You shouldn't have gone back. They remember you now." 10 a Hungup. That night, the fog rolled in again, thicker than before. My streetlights flickered until only one remained, right outside my window. Under it stood the same tall figure from the woods. It lifted something in its hand, my phone. The screen flashed a photo. Me, standing at the window. I closed the blinds. The faint whistle returned, wrapping around the house. And then my phone buzzed again. A new message. Coordinates. The same place in the Smoky Mountains where I'd camped. I don't know why I went back. Maybe to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. The air was silent when I reached the old birch tree. The trunk was still split in half, but now something was carved into it. Stay. And and below that, in smaller, uneven letters, I did. The ground beneath was disturbed. I brushed away the leaves and uncovered fabric, my tent again, half buried. I unzipped it with shaking hands and found a moldy sleeping bag inside. Something was still in it. When I pulled it open, my stomach dropped. It was me, rotten, twisted, but wearing my jacket. The fog rose around me, swirling, shaping itself into that same tall figure. And then it spoke not with sound, but with something inside my head. You never left. I woke up to park rangers shaking me. They said I'd been missing for a week. I tried to explain, but my phone had no photos, no messages, just one image in the gallery. A picture of the birch tree, and debated it for dark figures in the fog. One looked exactly like me. Now I never go near the woods, but sometimes, when fog rolls past my house at night, I still hear that whistle. And the next morning, there's always a new photo on my phone. The same tree, the same fog, and me, standing beside it. If you're still here, thanks for listening. Tell me in the comments, would you ever hike alone again? Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next story might make you think twice before stepping into the woods.